everybody, I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Mediaite contributing editor Sara Rumpf. Sara, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Brittany. It's good to be here.
It is a highly anticipated night. Vice President Kamala Harris is sitting down for her first interview since President Joe Biden dropped out of the race and endorsed her. So what are you looking out for tonight?
It's interesting because the response to this interview has been very different from both the left and the right. From the Democrat side, obviously, nobody's expecting that she would go the entire campaign all the way through November and never do a sit-down interview. But this idea that she can't do it or has to be holding somebody's hand that's coming from the right is very, it would be amusing if it weren't so sexist. This is an important interview. In my view, CNN's Dana Bash was the right choice to moderate it. She and Jake Tapper did a tough but fair job during the previous debate when Biden was still in the race. If they'd gone with MSNBC or somebody known to be a Democratic progressive operative, then it would be accused of being a puff piece, a joke. If they'd gone with Fox News, they would have had somebody screaming at them about you're the borders are the whole time. And, this seems to be a good middle ground.
Let's talk about the complaints from the right and the left here, because since it was announced she will also be sitting with the vice presidential nominee, Governor Tim Walz. There have been complaints largely from the right. Elise Stefanik tweeted that this is offensive for women. Meghan McCain posted a similar sentiment. I mean, what do you make of those criticisms here?
Again, it is kind of, this fake concern that this is somehow not a real interview. A number of people have pointed out on Twitter. I know Stuart Stevens was tweeting at Scott Jennings on CNN, who was making the same complaint, saying that Scott Jennings himself had helped set up a joint interview with a presidential and vice presidential candidate. This is very common to do a joint interview after the VP nominee has been selected. Romney and Ryan did it. McCain and Palin did it. This is not new. And the idea that, this could be videotaped on television and somehow Kamala Harris, who was a prosecutor, who was attorney general, who was senator, and is now vice president, would not be able to answer a question without a man sitting next to her. If she really is incapable of answering a question without a big strong man holding her hand and whispering in her ear, telling her what to say, we'll see that. And that's just not going to happen. It's an absurd sort of thing, like, oh, she has to have her babysitter, her chaperone, her man with her. She's incapable. No, it's two people who are heading the ticket, who are presenting their argument for why Americans should vote for them. That's what's going on. It's really not more complicated than that.
And Biden-Harris sat for an interview 4 years ago too, but do you think there's more pressure on this moment now because she has waited so long for an interview? There was a countdown. I was getting alerts for a countdown. It's been X many days without a press conference or tough questions. I mean, do you think that added to the pressure here?
Yeah, I mean, that in some ways was a strategic error on the part of the campaign, but I don't think necessarily a fatal one. There is a counterpoint that the pressure and time pressure specifically of getting everything in order after Biden dropped out. I mean, this is a really remarkable thing that happened over the past 30 plus days, where the presidential candidate dropped out and another candidate was endorsed, that Biden immediately endorsed her and the Democrats lined up around her. But there was a process they had to go through to get those votes in order. I don't blame her for wanting to, just kind of keep her head down and keep everybody happy and move along until that nomination was officially legally settled. But there have been, she has been having a traveling press corps with her. She has been talking with them off the record. There have been a number of moments where she's answered quick questions getting in and out of the plane. She did do a couple interviews with some of the content creators who were brought to the DNC. Again, those are friendlies. That's not really necessarily the same as a hard-hitting interview. So, this is important that she's doing this tonight. If they delayed it another week, I think it would have been really a bad look.
You said that CNN's Dana Bash was the right person for the job here. The interview is airing Thursday, primetime, 9 p.m. What questions do you think she needs to ask tonight?
One of the things that has been a valid criticism, in my view, from both the right and the left, is that she has changed positions on some issues. Now, there is the point, if you learn something and you change your mind, that's one thing. If you present a policy initiative that the American people don't want or can't get through Congress, and you shift your view, okay, we can't do X, but I think we can do Y, and that'll have this positive benefit. That's not weakness. That's a sign of intelligence and adaptation. But she has taken different positions on issues. She should be questioned about that, and she should clarify where she stands and what the goals of a Harris-Walz administration would be on these specific issues. Americans have very real concerns about the economy, immigration, a number of these topics that if she is elected president, she would have such, direct influence on. She needs to clarify, and Bash needs to be not just ask the initial question, but ask a follow-up question to make sure that details are nailed down.
I had an opportunity to sit down with Frank Luntz last week, and he said he would give advice to the campaign if he were advising it. It'd be horrible for democracy, but good for her campaign, and that would be stay away from policy, ignore the criticisms of not going out there, not answering the questions. But she is going out there. She is answering the questions tonight. So what do you think a win in the Harris campaign's book would look like tonight?
They've done a really good job so far on the messaging. It's been very positive, and it's also been framed in a way, if you look at the messaging that was just absolutely hammered over and over during the DNC throughout all the speeches, was that not only is Donald Trump dangerous for what he is presenting as his platform for America, for the things that he would do if he's reelected, but that the Democrats and Harris and Walz have a positive view and a positive plan for America. As somebody who considers myself a politically homeless former Republican, I was personally very happy to hear the number of former Republicans they had on stage. Former Congressman Adam Kinzinger's speech was very good. Kamala Harris herself giving a very strong pro-America, pro-national security foreign policy message was extremely reassuring. There have been constant complaints over the past decade or so from the right that Democrats are weak on national security and foreign policy. Kamala Harris's message during the DNC was a very strong pro-national defense, pro-America message. And, being able to continue that message of it's not just Donald Trump is bad, but I am going to be good. If they can emphasize and they can get that message across that they have a specific plan, they have specific ideas to give Americans a reason to vote for them and not just against Trump, that's going to be able to continue to build on the post-convention momentum that we've been seeing in the polls so far.
As someone who describes themselves as a politically homeless ex-Republican, what do you think a win for Donald Trump tonight looks like? Because ever since Biden dropped out, Harris became the nominee. He's been flailing campaign-wise, has been neck and neck with her in the polls. Just over the past couple of days has been reposting QAnon-related content, sexually explicit jokes about Harris and Hillary Clinton. I mean, what's a win for him tonight?
The trouble that we have with the current media environment is that the vast majority of people will not necessarily tune in to CNN and watch the entire interview live. So if there is a clippable moment that goes viral that's damaging, I don't think that there's going to be anything that happens in this interview that will be a knockout punch and completely end the campaign. But if you look at, there was a previous interview that Kamala Harris did with Lester Holt, and she was asked about immigration and gave a very awkward sort of answer about, have you been to the border? And I could see she was trying to make a joke, well, I haven't been to Europe, meaning that, I can still read on these issues. I can still be intelligent on these issues. I don't have to physically be standing looking at the Rio Grande River to be able to have be contributing to the policy on this. The answer fell flat. And it has been clipped and posted over and over and over by Trump supporters, by Republicans, to criticize her on the immigration issue. If she has another answer like that, where it's viewed as not answering the question or not being direct and transparent in her answer, I think it is something that the Trump campaign will gleefully capitalize on. But on the flip side, the Harris campaign has been doing that to Trump quite a bit. His last few press conferences, they've clipped, it seems like nearly the entire content that he's been producing and just sharing, like, well, this is what Trump just said. This is what Trump just said. So, this is a tactic that we're going to see over and over from both sides until November.
Well, there's certainly a lot to look to tonight. I appreciate you coming on, providing a preview. Sara Rumpf, thanks for joining me once again.
All right. Thanks so much, Brittany.